The lead on a couple of things to start this meeting. And then when we get to the point where we elect a board chair and a vice chair, they would be the ones that would be leading the meetings in the future down to what we're doing. So welcome. Thank you all for giving us your time and starting something that brand new. We're going to kind of figure out as we go what this board will do and what they will bring to the community. And it's great that you guys are part of that initial process. So call the meeting to order. I'm going to do, it's usually a roll call. So I will have, Monica, do you want to call? Do you want me to call roll?
Would you call this one?
Yes. Steph?
Here.
Esther?
Here.
Paul?
Here.
Christine? And Andrew. And our council liaison, Cheryl Bellerin, Councilor Bellerin. Excellent. So we do have a quorum, so we can have a meeting. If we ever, just as a side note, if we don't have three people from the board voting people, we actually can't hold a meeting. So I usually try to make sure, that's why I said, can you respond to see if you can come? To make sure that we have a quorum and we don't bring people in when you don't need to be in.
Can I send a note to Christine?
Yeah, please do. That'd be great. And Andrew did say he was going to be here, so maybe something held him up a little bit. So the second thing that we do, and it's really just part process, is approval of the agenda. And basically it says what we're going to talk about. You guys are all in favor. We're not going to add anything. We can add some things to an agenda, but mostly because we're a public meeting, we have to make sure that we've told the public what we're going to talk about in the meeting. So small things we can add, but we can't add really large conversation pieces to the meeting. So the approval of the agenda would be a motion. And so it would, do you want to, I know that you normally wouldn't do a motion, but do you want to kind of give an example of what a motion would be for this?
Sure. So, when a motion is made, it should be specific. In this case, we'd say, I move to approve the agenda of our Public Arts Advisory Board for Tuesday, August 25th. I might even be getting a little more detailed than we need to, and then that would require a second. And
If somebody out here can second that motion.
I'll second that motion.
So the motion is seconded, and then the chair would say, motion's been seconded, call for a vote, everybody in favor? Say aye, if you're in favor, and if you're not, anybody opposed? The motion passes 3-0. So that's pretty straightforward. That's just a real easy thing. Same thing happens with approval of the minutes. So Monica will do introductions in a second, but Monica will do the approval of the minutes or write the minutes, and then we'll approve them in kind of the same way. I did skip over the introduction. Sorry, the most important part of this meeting. I could terrify you all and say, we're going to do tell us all about yourself and trust falls and all the things.
Oh,
We're not going to do that today. But what I did want to, yeah, today, I'm not saying we're not going to do it again.
checking that agenda.
But it would be great to hear, including staff, like a little bit of your story, who you are, whatever you want to tell us about, but just so we have a little bit of better idea of what people are starting. So I don't know, Cheryl, do you want to start with?
Sure. So, I've been serving on council since January 25, and it's my second year. And, I've been active with the Urban Forestry Board and the Budget Committee as well. And then this will be my third committee to be on as a liaison, which I'm excited about. And my husband and I moved here going on 7 years now from Southern California, semi-retired. Say, because I don't consider myself retired yet. I refuse from IT careers, and landed here in this beautiful spot. No children, just a Labradoodle. Love dearly.
Thank you. Paul?
I've been here 36 years now. I've mainly lived as an artist and art teacher. And I was part of a Sisters Public Arts Committee for a couple of years, 10, 15 years ago. And was responsible to get the horse statue in there, as well as I think the heron piece in the park there. And then I designed the piece that's in the First Street Park there as well. So I've had some experience on the Arts Committee. I was on the Arts Committee forever for the library when that was going. And that was always a very enjoyable time, I must say. And I've been involved teaching since I was 18 years old, so, and teaching art in some form or another. So, I feel I've got a good background, in the arts. At the same time, I know we'll be dealing with things that, are, always new. It's always something new coming up, new ways of making things, and new ideas, and of course, personalities. It's always, sometimes can be a great thing. At the last group I was in, we all really enjoyed one another. And that was the case with the library too. Everybody just really looked forward to getting together. So I'm hoping that will happen here too. I'm feeling that right now.
Great. I'm Esther Nooner, lived here in Sisters about 1 year and maybe 6 days. Moved here for a job at the Roundhouse Foundation. So I'm the arts program manager at Pine Meadow Ranch Center for Arts and Agriculture. I come from, I've been involved in some public art in my own practice. In my previous job, I did some stuff with some small organizations there. But my job is very community oriented and very arts oriented, so I'm glad to be here and see both of those things active and thriving in this beautiful and very engaging town that we live in. So happy to be a part of it.
I'm Steph Siebold, and let's see, I've lived in Sisters about 8 years, I mean, almost 9, actually. Moved here from Portland. That was the portal, one of the portals that I came through. I own a leadership consulting business, so I do a lot of leadership training, coaching, teach classes at COCC. Love that gig. Before that, I spent about 30 years in workforce development. So I worked for the workforce board that was over our area, East Cascade Works. And then when I was in Portland, I worked for the workforce board there as well. So really indoctrinated on all public service kinds of things. Board regulations and stuff. I also co-own the Clay Collective. And I have, oh my gosh, art has always been my my mental health, like any kind of medium. My watercolor, I obviously do ceramics. And so I just have this love for the arts. And I think one of the things too that I just gravitate towards is just community, like building community, bringing people together, building community. When I moved here, I didn't really feel very connected as a lesbian, and I didn't see my people. And so I created a meetup group called Sisters and Sisters just to get folks out. So I was like, I can either hide and just be afraid of not being out or create opportunities where I can find, folks that are probably looking for the same community. And so I kind of always take that lens with me in just creating community and bringing people together. And so I'm really looking forward to how that's going to fit into public art and just helping with the community.
Awesome, thank you. Monica, do you want to do a quick?
I am Monica Burmeister. I am the city recorder. I moved to Sisters. I'm the newest one here. I moved to Sisters in January, started here in February. I went to school. My education is in architecture and design. It has been a part of my life ever since. And then I moved to Oregon and started teaching about the beauty of nature and was in outdoor education for 15 years. And then I moved here. It's me and my blue heeler, Penny Lane. So yeah, we're loving Sisters now and excited to be here for this new board.
Awesome. Christine's walking in, so we're going to get her right when she comes in the door. Hi, Christine. You are coming at the most perfect time because we are doing over here, because that's our that's our public comment table. Yeah. Take a breath. Introduction, so you can, I'll introduce myself and then you can go after I do. Carrie Prosser, I grew up in Bend and have lived in Sisters for the past, I guess it's 35 years, coming on 35 years. Kind of always forget that because I think I'm like only 37 or so. But went a couple other places, before coming back to Central Oregon, but Central Oregon's probably my true love of areas in the nation. I had a career for 25 years in the private sector in management, and then came to the city when the city recorder position opened up 10 years ago this November. And it was a really great move. Had no experience at all in public process, public anything, and learned on my feet and have been doing it and moving through since then. So am the assistant city manager now, which really means it's just whatever ends up either starting something or ending something at the city. It's how I always look at our department, right? So either a project starting that the council wants to do, we started and then we hand it off, or something's finishing up and it rolls through us to kind of live. So that's kind of where we are. The public art has been on my radar for really almost the full last 10 years, when I think my first workshop that I went to before I was actually even hired, they did the resolution that formed the Hood Avenue Art District. So that's kind of where I started. And then there's been a lot of push and pull ever since about what we do with the city with art. Do we need to have a committee? Are we, partnering with things, all these kind of different things, and has slowly, as sometimes public entities do, moved into us forming this board that I think we will probably have some long life based on the amount of art and the people that would like to see art continue in Sisters. So that is great. My husband is an artist. He's been a potter for a lot of years. Let's say 42, but I might, probably over that year. So we have a little gallery and pottery in town. So I'm involved in that. And so from the peripheral side of it, sometimes artists need somebody that can do the books. So that's what I do. Anyways, so do love this town for the art, not only the physical art, but the music, which Christine is involved in, and all the different aspects. One of the things that I love most about this community and the art that is here is the grassroots piece of it. People ask us all the time. They love Sisters. How do you do it? We need to form a committee to do what Sisters did. And I often artists fly a lot under their own wings, and that's really what makes this town pretty phenomenal. And I think, Paul, you're one of those artists. Your wife is one of those artists, and that has been the undertone. And I hesitate. I was probably one of the most people that hesitated about bringing a formal art committee together, because I don't want that force, right? I'd like it to just be a little more flowing. So we'll see how this all goes, but I think there's some structure and some of the things as a city that we can do with art. And that's the piece that I think we can, hopefully, as this group does a good job with that. So that's my story. Christine?
My name's Christine Funk and I run Thompson Guitars. And I've, in the last couple of years, kind of become an artist, I guess. I do glass on glass mosaic, and it's been really fun. And I've been doing a lot of it. So it obviously inspires me. I'm not a guitar maker. I don't play music, but I run that more with different hats and things like that. So the art part of it, my mother has been a painter, and I don't know, I just visually, I have a lot of Paul's art. But yeah, and I have lots of pottery. So I'm an art collector. If you go in my house, there's a lot of art. So I feel like I have an eye for it and just a feel for it, and hopefully I can help somehow.
And one of the things that one of our mayor actually made sure when we did the kind of the document, overriding document for this board, that was put in, that it was also not just visual arts, that it was things like music. And we don't know what that looks like yet. But I'm really glad that it was put in because that is also a huge tie into this community and what that feels and looks like in the public spaces. So, yeah, so theater, all the pieces eventually could be something that we look like in the public preview. So, any, yeah.
Now, will you three, because of your backgrounds in the arts too, be giving input to the committee? Or how does that work? Have us five and then the three of you. And, I mean, all comments are welcome, but I wasn't sure how you share all this.
So I think for most of our boards and committees, you always have a staff member who basically guides the process and works with our council. And we'll go to that in a minute of what is the council looking at and does that flow into what we're looking at, right? So there's their work plan, their goals flow into what all of our boards do. And yes, I think we will build and put together, whether it's a staff report or, how are we going to start to look at things? And we'll let you guys discuss and feedback, and we will intervene and answer, whether it's technical questions or, maybe re-guide, I would say, based on maybe what the council is maybe more of a direction they would like to go. So I think it's kind of, there is a give and take for sure. The boards are often, I guess I can give an example of like our Public Works Advisory Board, right? That's a little more straightforward as public works stuff always is. Here's a water project. We're going to have the board look at it. Is the board going to change the engineering? Absolutely not. Is the board going to look at it and say, maybe, what about doing X, Y, or Z? Or can we reduce costs this way? Will be very different than that just based on what art is. But that same kind of piece is that we may bring you, dependent upon the council might say they'd like us to work on for the year, something. Here's a great example. If the council says, I want you guys to relook at the art policy and procedures that we have, which the city already has in place. So we would bring you what we have. We would probably bring you suggestions of if we thought changes, and we would have you guys review and give your feedback. So that's a really kind of cut and dried piece of something that might happen. Other things as far as projects and different art pieces, we don't know yet kind of what that will look like. Because you were on the committee for the original Roundabout Art on the far side of the east side of town, west side of town, excuse me. We ran another similar committee for this side, and that might look different than what we do looking at art for something right now than what we did then. So I don't have necessarily a pat answer for you, but we will be here for support and for input on some of those pieces.
And you're gonna get into some of the roles here.
Yeah. Well, so we'll get into when I do the orientation piece, some of that.
I, just like Carrie said, just adding on to Carrie's, my role as council liaison, I feel is more a conduit of information. So by me being here, then I can report back to the rest of council on decisions you've been making, discussions you've been having, and vice versa. If there's a council decision that's been made, we can share that, that affects the public art committee. I would share that with you. So, and you can ask me questions anytime along the way here, but this is your baby. You're the advisory group, and the council is very excited to have that opportunity to have a group that can help with that. Thank you.
Unless there's any other questions, I was going to move on to the board business. And the first order there is to elect a board chair. So just to give you kind of an overview of what the board chair would do, they would run the meeting. So you would have opened the meeting like I did, called for the motions, called for the next item, maybe kind of funneled the conversation if needed, of making sure that everybody's voice was heard, somebody's voice wasn't overly heard. We can always, either Monica or myself, give direction on procedure, as that happens, because that's a little different thing. So it's not your role would really be within the meeting. And then occasionally, like when we when we have positions open on the board, we usually take the board chair into the interview committees as those happen, and they help us do that interview process. So not a lot of time in that position necessarily. And then I'm just going to quickly into the vice chair, somewhat the same, only if the chair isn't here. The vice chair takes the meeting over and does basically the same thing. So those are the two roles. So it would be a kind of call for any nominations, and you can nominate yourself if you are interested in being that position. So if somebody's nominated, and then we would call for a second, and we can discuss if anybody has questions, and then there would be a vote on that. So I'm going to open up nominations for the board chair position.
I nominate Steph.
Is there any discussion? Would anybody like to discuss, or
No, I agree.
do we have a second on that?
Yeah.
Or Steph, are you? You accept that nomination would also be.
Yes, I will.
Okay, so we call for a vote. Are there any, all people in favor?
Do I get a?
Yeah, you can vote on yes. Any opposed?
Are we missing someone?
We're missing one person. Yeah, Andrew is not here. Yeah. So the motion passes. So Steph, you are now our board chair. Would you like to take over the election of the vice chair? Or would you like me to? Okay.
No, you do it.
Okay, I can do it.
Let
Steph.
me walk the pro.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna call.
Take your sash later.
Thanks.
Round.
Gavel.
Oh, we can totally get you the gavel. We've got one. So I'm gonna open nominations for the vice chair position.
Nominate Paul.
All you.
Sure. Yeah.
Are there, is there a second?
Sure.
All right. And I call for a vote. All in favor
Aye.
and opposed? No. All, congratulations. The vote passes. So we've got Steph and Paul as our chair and vice chair. So thank you for that. So normally those positions, I need to go look at the thing. I think we will elect them every 2 years. I think it's with our elections. So there is we'll hold this. You guys are in kind of a funny spot. Like you guys noticed, you got 1.5 and 2.5 year terms versus 3 years. So when those first terms end, right after those new people or the same people come on if they want to, we'll elect again for that. So thank you all for stepping up to those positions. And then any questions from?
Well, it's easy.
That's pretty, you guys are great. Now I've got 25 minutes of public art orientation. And this is really, I'm not gonna read everything. There's a lot of words that are gonna show up on this screen. You guys got the PowerPoint in your package, so if you've read it, what I'm mostly gonna do is go through, and if you have questions, let's talk about things. So first of all, City Sisters form of government. We're a council manager form of government, so council talks about policy, and management, our city manager, has authority over day-to-day operations. So have you guys met Jordan Wheeler, our city manager, before? Have you met Jordan, Paul?
I don't think I have. I think I've seen him around, but
Yeah, we'll drag him into one of the next meetings. So he has the day-to-day operations. City council, 5 volunteer unpaid members. The mayor is the chairperson, and the council president is the vice chair. So our mayor is Jennifer Letts, and our council president is Sarah McDougall. And the council sets city goals, enacts legislation, and adopts policies. And they take official action only at regular city councils meetings held on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of each month. So that's our governing piece. And then we've got our boards and commissions, which you guys are a part of. I'm not going to read through all of these, but we've got 6 now. So we have a budget committee that meets once, maybe twice a year, and they help us with our budget process and passing the budget. Parks Advisory Board, all things parks, all the fun, all the new playgrounds, any of the pieces. I really love that group. They get to do a lot of fun things. Planning Commission, that is a 4-year term group, and there's 7 of those folks, and they decide things that come through our planning department that escalate to a little higher level. So they review all of those kind of things for us. Public Art Advisory Board, that's you guys. New, there's some guidelines in our founding documents, but you get to kind of figure out where we're going along with council's recommendations. Public Works Advisory Board, this is a board that looks at all things streets, water, sewer. They're looking at all those things, new infrastructure going in, all of our big projects that go in. Then our Urban Forestry Board, and they look at all things trees that are on public property. So they're very similar to us, is that they look at public trees, not necessarily private trees, Whereas the same thing with this board, we will look at public art, which is a little confusing for folks. Public art that we're considering at this point is art in our right of way, in our parks, potentially if we did a mural or something on a public building, but it would not pertain to something on private property. So we don't have any purview or say over that. Couldn't there eventually be public-private partnerships? Absolutely. Like that's not so far out of the realm, but that starting point is really just public property, public funds with this group. So we'll kind of take a look at, and there's a lot that could be done there for sure. There's a lot of projects. Coordination with council, staff, and others. So here's where kind of the chart is good. The board or commission makes recommendations to council. Council can reject or accept any of those things, so they have the final say. And the staff explains kind of the roles and responsibilities there. You can adopt a position of advocacy, where the council may consider your where you want to go, but they'll look at multiple views, including what the public good and public comments are. And we facilitate the communication between the two as staff members. You guys can advise on policy. So if we have a art policy, you're like, we'd like to change this. Here's what we'd like to do. Council would actually create the policy. So that would be more, so a good example of that would be a mural policy. Say the council was like, yes, we really would like you to work on mural policy. You would advise us on that policy. Council would review all that policy, but staff would really work through the ins and outs and what that looked like. And then you guys meet regularly. We are technically, by the founding documents, can meet no less than quarterly. And we will meet monthly, I believe, for a while, just because it's part of what we're starting up. But we don't want to also take your time up when we're not working on anything. So I know our Parks Board has not been meeting over the summer necessarily. They've taken a break, or next meeting, we'll talk about some of the dates that fall right next to Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like we may move stuff because of that. So, so we'll meet pretty regularly to start for sure. Advisory Board has a council liaison who attends, and then the staff attends meetings and takes minutes on all those pieces. Questions so far as I'm running through this? You guys had this all in your packet, so hopefully if you have any questions, you can always reach out to myself or Monica, actually. So what we do, Paul, this is kind of what you asked about, staff, that we, provide context to the issues, kind of what we've heard from council, what our administration is saying, and kind of the priorities. And that's a big thing with the council. They're working on a lot. If you look at their goals, they're working on a lot of big things. And priorities get shifted for sure. Like, do we need to vote on something that needs to go, planning thing that needs to go to the next thing because it's on a deadline? Sometimes some other things get shifted down the line. So the priorities are interesting and always being juggled with what we're doing. We provide professional and technical advice. That might be that we bring a consultant in for something. Like we just did a big signage, wayfinding signage update for the city, and we brought a consultant in to help us with that work. And so we did that last year. So that's one of those things that we sometimes bring consultants in. We have clerical assistants. We maintain the public records. We will get you the agendas and the packets. My goal is no less than 5 days before. Hopefully you're not reading 400-page packets like our council sometimes is. But we'd like to give you guys time at least to research and to ask questions if you have ahead of time. You can always reach out, email or phone and ask us questions ahead of time. I'm happy to answer those. And then we're here to also kind of help provide a balanced perspective on what's happening within the city and what you guys are thinking. Public meetings, here we are. We are a public body, so we are always open to the public. We are recorded and videoed, and those will go up on our website the next day. So anybody can either watch in the moment on the Zoom or they can watch later on, which is great transparency. Quorum, we'll need at least 3 people from the board to have a quorum. And that's, again, why I kind of reach out and say, can you come? So that we make sure that we're not trying to run a meeting without a quorum. We won't have we shouldn't have public hearings here because we don't vote on things like that. But public hearings are where you basically have maybe a topic and you want to hear what the public says. And so you have a more formal way for them to come up and speak for 3 minutes or a couple minutes and tell you kind of what they would like to talk about. And then minutes, they're required for all board and commission meetings, and Monica will put those together and you'll be voting on them at hopefully the next meeting that we have. So a lot of procedure, that we need to do, but we'll get through this pretty quickly. Public records. Here's why we have you guys have a city email account, right? And you'll notice like I emailed you on your city accounts with the packet, and then I also BCC'd you on your personal accounts. Please try to respond on your city accounts. I'm hoping to wean you off your personal accounts as much as possible. I know that probably won't happen. With boards, it's hard because you don't get the kind of nonstop interaction like maybe the council is. But the reason for that is it's all a public record. And if you're responding to us via our email system, those are all being saved, right? So it's a lot easier as for somebody who says, I want all the emails between Steph and the city for the last 6 months. We can go in our system and grab those without saying, Steph, I need your phone. Because technically, you might have to give your phone up or your device up for that. That's why we always ask that you respond or reach out to us on the city email piece, or just call us. That's fine too. So anything within the meeting, conversations, all public record, just so you know. And I think I already kind of went, all city related business should be conducted on that city email. So even tech, like we've had this, and I haven't seen it in any of our boards, we haven't had it in any of our meetings, but you also can't meet together to talk about things that you might make a decision on. So if you're at the barn and you're at the barn and you're talking about something, that's okay. You can't technically talk too much about the art stuff. If you show up at the barn and you're all talking about it, that is now a public meeting and is subject to all public meeting laws, and it's kind of an issue. I don't worry about it as much with our boards, council. It's actually a big deal because they're elected. But just be really aware that we're trying to be super transparent with the public. And if they, you may think it's just harmless. We're talking about this meeting that we just had. We went and grabbed a beer, or we went and grabbed a cup of tea, and people behind you are hearing you talk about that. That's when they're like, oh, well, the public doesn't know how, that's what's happening there. So it's just, it's something to be aware of. It's part of the public process that we just have to be careful of. Any questions on that? Have I scared anybody yet? No? Good. I know you all know some of this stuff already. I don't think it's too new. Ethics. The biggest thing with the ethics is you can't take gifts of more than $50 from any one entity in a given year. So if somebody says, Paul, I want to thank you for being on this board. I'm going to take you out to a really nice restaurant, and that's a $75 value. You actually can't take that gift, right? It's a $50 limit. And we try to err on the side of perception is everything, is that we try not to have people take gifts from folks. If somebody wants to buy you a cup of coffee, that's fair, that's great. If somebody wants to buy you lunch every week, probably not going to be, it is not ethically okay. And that is. The other thing that we have is if you have a conflict of interest. So that would be, I'll use Steph. So we're going to do we're going to put a piece of art in front of City Hall, and you are going to submit an application. You now potentially have a conflict of interest with that. So you would have to, in that case, remove yourself from the table. So you have a conflict of interest, and you can still be in the room, but you have to not be part of the conversation. A potential conflict of interest is when you don't have a financial interest in it, but you might, answer this for you, your partner is going to submit something. So you may have, because you might have a financial interest, so you might have to recuse yourself. You may not, just based on whatever that conflict might be. And you can always ask. We're always going to let you make the final decision, but we can always help you kind of think through that piece. Because you're all artists, it might come up, right? So that's just something to think about in this case. But there is a guide for public officials, which I think in this gem that I sent you. It should be in there, links in there that you guys can read through if you're interested, or you can ask Monica or myself. I just got a link to an Oregon ethics training this morning, and I'm going to spend that 90 minutes refreshing myself. So hopefully I'll have some answers. It does update a lot. Let's see. Couple of things, kind of what we'll do. We don't always go to council in our boards and say, what would you like us to work on? Because this board really stemmed from council wanting some direction on some art, we actually are going to go and Cheryl's going to talk about this a little later. Tomorrow night, actually, I'm going to the council with a list of priority projects that we have been talking about for actually some years at the city. And they're gonna prioritize those, and then we'll look at those at our next meeting and kind of talk about what those look like and what that work plan could look like. I think there's 10 on the list. Knowing that in 1 year, those 10 aren't gonna happen. Some of them I've tried to put timelines to. And if you look at our website and you look at the agenda for the city council meeting, you can read the staff report on that. So those are all in there. You could take a look at it and see kind of what those might look like. So council will help us with that work plan, give us some direction on that since we're such a new board. We don't do a lot of, you wouldn't do a lot of reports and presentations at council meetings. What would happen is that you as a group would be working on something and I would bring back that work to the council and in a workshop or in a regular meeting, if we needed to get approval, bring that through to them. I might ask for your support to come to a meeting and maybe speak on that topic or really dig into that, but that's really staff's kind of purview. Will come in and present to council. Just talked about work plans and then joint meetings, and it might happen with the art because, it is definitely of interest across the town, where we would meet with the council as a joint down on the floor and have a conversation about whatever that topic may be. We did it with the planning commission annually. I don't think we've done it with anybody else.
The joint.
Yeah, other boards and commissions, but it's a possibility. And what are you guys supposed to do here? Be prepared, review stuff, ask questions if you have them. That's fine. If you don't have time to read something, that's fine too. I understand everybody's busy and has their world going on. The transparency of kind of what's happening is great. We like to be transparent with the public. And if you have questions or conflicts, please, ask and we'll try to work through those. Treating everybody with courtesy, civility, patience, even when there are disagreements. Art can be, everybody has a different perception of what art is, looks like, is to them, is not. And being respectful of all of that is really, I think, one of the most important pieces in this group. We talked about the private conversations can have a public presence, so sure, be careful of that. Expect to attend all board meetings, but we know people's lives happen. If you can let us know when you're not able, you're going on vacation, or maybe we've got 3 people on vacation and we have to move a meeting to a different time or cancel a meeting, that's fine. If you can always ask questions later or read up on the packet. It's great if everybody's here, but we do understand everybody also has their world going on. And then conduct yourself courteously and respectful at all times. So that's just kind of a, how we like to be treated in the world, I think, in general anyways. So, and a couple of things if you guys want to review our city website. We do have an art board page. We have their names up on those, I think, right now. Yeah, so we'll add the chair and vice chair to that. There's a city Facebook page if you guys want to follow, that would be great because we'll start putting information out on that. And then we have a newsletter, and I'm sure we will highlight this group in the newsletter in September because we've had our first meeting, so you'll be highlighted in that. But those are great sources of information for the things we do as a city. That is all I have on procedures. Does anybody have any questions or concerns or comments?
I do have a question about the big controversy of the roundabout. Did you guys have an art advisory board for that?
We had so it was not a public board. It was basically a technical advisory board. So they were reviewing the applications and kind of walking through that process, which is what we did with the roundabout at the other end as well. It wasn't an official city art board. It was never established. And that's, and then that came to council for council's approval or adoption, and that didn't happen. So that group was phenomenal. Really loved all those folks and invited any of them to work on this board as well. A lot of them live out of the city, so that in itself is only one person on this board is allowed to live out of the city. So that was a factor in that. But what I've talked to a number of them about is as we need any technical advice, we may actually ask them to come in and help us. So a good example for sculptures is Jeff Wester. He was on that board. He has such great information about, what materials would do and the weather and all the things. So if we were in a process where you guys had technical questions about something like that, I'm sure we could call Jeff and he would come in for a meeting and talk us what his thoughts are through on a technical space. Same thing with Kathy Degendorf. I talked to her about that as well. She is more than willing to come in. All of them were great. Jessie Durham was great just because she has a marketing kind of local view. She was on that board as well. So it was a great group of people that we may use as technical advisors in things as we need them.
And their role on that group was to look at the proposals that were coming in from artists. So that there was a bid put out, RFP put out for the project, and their role was going through all of those.
I see.
And then coming up with some determination of what could go in that space. And there was 2 rounds.
Yeah, 2 separate
We
rounds.
had some.
Yeah, the first round they did.
Did the first.
Yeah, the first round they decided that there was not anything they wanted to move forward. And so we closed that round. I went out for another call to artists for the second. We clarified some things in our proposal and then went out for a second round, which came up with 2, including the group interviewed those artists, with models from what those artists did, and then came to council. So, depending upon the project, I don't know what avenue we'll use any longer, whether we'll do that kind of call to artists for something big or, I don't know what. That's probably something that you guys will help us determine to do. So, yeah. Any other questions on the piece?
Was there some sort of art budget?
So that's a great question.
No.
Yes, yes, and so you guys are familiar with what's called an urban renewal agency. That's an overlay of a area of a city that there's money that from the tax rolls that comes in to do different projects. So there is right now in this fiscal year budgeted 175,000 for art within the urban renewal agency. That 175,000, it was intended last fiscal year for the art in the roundabout, right? That was what was basically, it was waylaid to that. This year, the council has basically said, we're not going to put a name on it. There is those funds to use. I don't know. We'll have to talk with council if we talk tomorrow night of, would they approve using that much money on something else in town? I don't know. That's not, because then we will not have funds for that roundabout, because the year urban renewal agency funds are a one and done. They don't regenerate because we're almost through this agency term. So it will be annually budget and it's something that we'll probably talk about as a group as we get into like next January. And we are looking at the list of things, and maybe we've worked off a couple of things, and we think next year you want to work on 2 other projects, and you'd like to ask for $40,000 from the city in the budget for that. And that would go through the budget process. So there's not any guaranteed funds for art. And one of the pieces in those founding documents all talks about how do we fund art? Like that might be something that we talk about, right? Do we, are there grants that we know of? What other ways are there to fund art within the city? So yes, and it's not a trough that is unlimited for things.
That 175, what did you say? By the end of the year, it's just gone.
Not gone. It's still in the urban renewal agency budget.
Right.
It was, and the end of the year for us is July, is June 30th, right? So we're in a different fiscal run. So if council tomorrow says, we want you guys to work on art at First Street, we would then kind of take that under consideration and see how much money and what they might be interested in doing and go from there. If they say, we actually want you to really think about the roundabout, we would work on that project and figure out how to move forward with that project. So it really is in a lot of ways dependent on how the council determines projects for this next year. And how this list that we have, which could change also, right, as things do, but right now the dedicated money is in the URA, but the URA is big, right? So it's almost all of our parks. It is all of downtown. So it's not a small space, so it definitely has considerations that things could happen within.
So we're going all the way to Adams Hood. And with all the new construction you're seeing on Adams and the improvements being done there, there's quite a bit of public land there that we could potentially put some art pedestals or what have you. And that 175,000 would qualify for that area. So that's what Carrie's talking about, this urban renewal agency. It's the money has to be specifically used within the district boundaries that we've set for urban renewal. So it includes that downtown corridor, which is
Yeah.
Adams, Maine,
Yeah, all the way to the post office, actually.
and the post office.
Yeah, not your neighborhood. Your neighborhood's kind of a cutoff of it. But it swings up that slot all the way to the post office and then goes all the way to Gateway Park. On that side of the highway, the old East Portal Park. That is all urban renewal as well. It's kind of stops there. And then from Hood to Adams is basically from Pine to Locust.
I thought, at one of the city council meetings, a couple of meetings back, someone had done a presentation about setting up pedestals around town to do sculpture. And you remember that at all, or whatever became of that?
So
You're talking about the signage?
yeah, so there has been talk, Dennis Schmidling years ago, it's been quite a few years, talked about wanting to do like a revolving art project in the bulb outs and do something like that. That is on the list of things that the council will kind of look at. One of the things that held that project to some degree back was our bulb outs, what we call the things that push out into the streets, are snow storage. So putting art there becomes problematic in the winter. We don't know where that project's gonna land, Paul. It has always been on my radar. Like we've actually looked at doing a small version of that at that Gateway Park because there's all those paths and we've actually marked out some spots that potentially could do pedestals, but I don't know that that will be a first priority project for the council, but it is on that list, and has been on that list. I've done a bit of diligence work towards it. I've talked to Redmond about other things. We have specs on pedestals. So that is something that is out there on those lists.
Where's Gateway Park?
East Portal, so the Forest Service property right across from Woodlands,
By Dakotas
right behind Dakotas.
and Les Schwab.
Oh.
Good, and
The labyrinth was? Oh, God.
Robert's still there. Robert's still there, yep.
I didn't know.
We changed the name.
Park.
It was East Portal, but it was misnamed because it's East Portal to 242. But it's the west side of town, so it was very confusing for people, for new people.
Call it Gateway Park then.
It's been renamed as Gateway Park, yeah.
With the dog park,
With the dog park and the labyrinth and the
transit center.
center, yeah.
There's
There's
an RV dump.
the RV dump station.
Multi-purpose.
It is, yeah, and lots of electric vehicle parking going in, so stuff going in there.
I
Anyway.
just parked mine, I just plugged mine in.
So that is kind of, any other questions that you guys have?
Yeah, can you just run through the list of what you think some of those priorities might be?
Yeah, let me actually escape out of this and pull it up. Actually, Cheryl, you were gonna talk about that.
Yeah, I could do it.
So, I'm gonna skip.
Get to that page in our packet.
We can come back to other questions and if you guys have any other comments, but Cheryl was gonna do a little quick liaison comments and that was on her.
So, Harry's great at sending out surveys to us counselors, so we can all kind of weigh in outside of meeting. And then she can bring the results to us. And hold on, it's a big packet, so let me get to.
I was gonna pull it up for you. I think I can pull it up on the screen.
So we have the results of that survey now, which Carrie then puts into a staff report for our city council meeting. We got it, it's under the workshop stuff. Okay. All right, so here's some of the projects that have come up. So updating our current art inventory. We actually have a web page on the city website that
Oh, yeah, I
has
saw that.
art. Yeah. So updating that art inventory, maintenance plans and policies. A second one is, of course, the roundabout is some property that can be considered. Adams Avenue art and developing mural guidelines and related development code around murals on buildings, public buildings. A city hall demonstration garden. So out here, behind City Hall here, we're working on basically a demonstration of defensible space. So there's gonna be pathways, we've already looked at a design, and various, what do you call it? The word I want, but, drought resistant.
Resistant and fire resistant
Yeah.
plants and an example for people to walk through and see.
Yeah, so, we need to set the example of what we hope people can do with their homes with defensible space for wildfires. So that's planned, and there's obviously space there for art, which would be an option. And then, another, idea is developing a public art walking tour map as visitors come to town. Some of them are very interested in the art, and, maybe that would be a brochure or something on our website or what have you. Developing a rotating public art program.
Paul, what you were-
It's back to the pedestal idea. Art at Gateway Park. And then some other input that came from counselors was coming up with maybe a vision for, or a theme, if you will, or what have you, for the roundabout art. So we've got 2 roundabouts right now, but there's 2 more planned. And that could be 20 years out. I don't know how the Locust one, where that's at, but so one down at Locust by the post office, that will be a roundabout, and then at Highway 20 and 126 eventually will be one. And that's an ODOT project, but it would be similar to this roundabout where I would assume the relationship with the city they would work with in terms of what we can put in the roundabout.
Because ODOT really has the regulations for it, the roundabout part.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's one of the things that you run into is that we are responsible for the roundabout once it's handed over, but because it's on a state highway, there are a lot of rules about what can go on those pieces.
Yeah, I mean, obviously ODOT doesn't want distracting mirrors and
Lights and-
blinding people while they're driving through the roundabout, things like that. So that's an idea of maybe we should have a theme for the roundabout that they all kind of work around, but use the word round again. Okay. Enhancing our art webpage on the city website. Policy and support around public music. And kind of going back to what you were saying is like, where does public music fit into your advisory role? Because we're kind of talking about public art on public property. Well, music is art too. But does it have to be,
We have a lot.
on a roundabout?
Yeah, we do have a lot of, we have stages, right? We have the Songbird stage and First Street. We have the ability to have music in parks. So I think that's a piece that is super interesting.
And then the last one was artistic elements in infrastructure, like our signage, or you notice our trash cans. We've got little art on the trash cans, benches throughout the city, just how we can find other places to incorporate art.
Some really interesting on the Creekside Bridge. They put some really interesting pieces and railings on that. So there's a lot of little secret art things in town. They're fun, I think.
Yeah, if you haven't looked at the website page, it kind of gives you a good inventory there, but we could probably do some other
I have
items.
lots of crosswalks. Let's have crosswalk art.
Crosswalk art. So those are 12 items that council will be looking at tomorrow and discussing and prioritizing to kind of give some guidance to you guys, because right now it's just anything and everything art. If we can help with giving you a little bit of a guidance there, we will.
So now you're talking about starting with the council, and then it comes to us to kind of mull over these things. But what if we have an idea like just having a gateway on the east side, the west side here that says "Welcome to Sisters," like what Redmond has there. So then Could that be added to your list for tomorrow? You know, just,
I don't see why not. I mean, we're
Yeah.
looking for advice, right? For-
I think that we're looking for, from this list that's there, is the council has kind of previewed those pieces and called them priority for a while in that. That may be something that you can bring up, but it's also, that's more of also an infrastructure piece too. So it could be something like that.
Structure.
Yeah, and it could be what level of priority that they put that up, but you know, if you'd like to bring that up tomorrow, you certainly could.
But I think in general, to me, it's a give and take, and we're kind of just trying to set the first step as council to help you guys. But I would never limit the creative minds of artistic people in this room.
I do have a question. Is the council more, and maybe this is a both question, but are they more interested in like permanent public or like a rotating public art?
I don't think we know yet.
We haven't had the discussion.
I think there's probably room for both. If I was, put it out there, but yeah.
Yeah.
with public music, that could entail so many things, but just equipment or, you know, payment to artists, you know, if you did say you wanted to pay for equipment for performing artists, then where do you store that equipment, you know? So things quickly get quite complicated there, you know? Is there storage for things, you know, just, you know, as a working artist, I think all of us experience a storage problem.
Yeah.
And
And that's a good
you know,
discussion too.
making stuff.
Yeah.
and, You know, it's,
I remember riding my bike by the park one day and this man had parked and opened up the back of his car and he had a little amp and he just started playing the guitar right there on the sidewalk. And I was like, wow, wouldn't that be great if we, you know, could have help with that, you know, with that kind of.
with a little brown hat and the beard, so the fellow, I forget his name, what's his name? He was doing an open mic over here at Spoons for,
Oh, okay.
but
Yeah.
anyway. I mean, I would like to encourage that kind of thing. I think we're right on the cusp of a renaissance here because there's so many things going on in all the arts right now. Maybe not, I don't know about dance, because I'm not involved with that, but certainly in poetry and writing. I mean, all the authors we have in this town, poets and of course, visual artists and glasswork and music, of course, and quilting and clay, you know, I mean, it's just, there's a volcano of activity in the arts that's happening right now.
It'd be fun to have on the city website. Well, I guess that's an art, never mind. That's an art association thing, but, which they do a nice job of having everybody, but just like, if you come to the City of Sisters, these are some of the art things you can
We
find.
try to, because we're a city, we
Yeah.
do public things that we own versus we can't recommend like, go to that gallery or do that necessarily unless it's kind of that, you know.
Yeah.
Unless it's like, yeah. we-
Definitely more public art, seems like we should have more.
Yeah.
We should have tiled walkways to this city building.
And I want to also speak to kind of what we are and what we're not as well.
Right.
So we do not have a person who's dedicated to just art in the city. I'm that person and I have a lot of other pieces on that plate too. So that's why when, even if you read the staff report from the city council, it talks about in general the timeline on some of these and why we talk about doing maybe one or two things a year. You know, people often talk about Redmond and their art program, which is a phenomenal program. And they've been doing it for, I want to say, 25 years. And I'm sure they didn't start out at blah. Ben's Art is actually out to a nonprofit, does all the work for them, right? They hand them the money and they do the piece. So that's a very different, so there's different models. I'm on and have been for a couple of years on a state run with Leora Sponko out of Bend, who is on kind of the state. They've been looking at cultural art and cultural districts across the state. They thought there was going to be funding a few years ago. There was no funding. In fact, there's probably never going to be funding. But our group has been meeting for over 2 years, monthly, talking about art districts and art things and just in general, kind of the give and take. And it's been super interesting because I'm one of, I think, 3 people that actually work for a municipality on this. Most of it are nonprofit folks. And it's really interesting talking about the push and pull and what that looks like and kind of the frustration on both ends and the good things that happen on both ends. So I'm kind of immersed in like what that looks like for a few years. And I really love the group because you get so many great ideas and you also realize sometimes it's 4 steps forward and 3 steps back, and then 2 more forward, and then I'm gonna shimmy to the left, and go again. So those expectations, I think this is a great starting point, of what we can do and focus on, and it could be a lot of things, and I think that's probably our next meeting would likely to, after the council gives their input, is really talking about what that work plan not only looks like for maybe the next 6 to 8 months, but what do you guys, because if you don't long-term maybe look at stuff, you may never get a rotating art project or an arch or music in the park, right? But what does that look like, So I feel like that was likely to be kind of what our next conversation is about at the next meeting.
So if the city gives us something but we're all excited about a different thing, and we say, well, we'd rather work on this other project that we're really excited about right now and not your.
Well, I think that would depend upon funding, right? And what the council wants, because there may not be funding for another project if it's not within the parameters of what they're looking for. So yes, and it's really, the council approves everything in the end. So it really is to some degree, they're gonna give us some guidance on some of those, I think.
Okay, so at this point, we'll wait to hear from them and.
I think in this beginning, stepping towards,
Yeah.
seeing how the group works together, building trust with the council between the board is important. And I think that's when you have the ability to say, you did a great job on that. We want to go this direction. What do you think? And that I think is where you end up having that trust built between the council and those boards and ability to do. This is a really unique board because there's way more kind of flexibility and waves than in any of other boards, I think. I don't know what yes. So
And I think that's why we kind of struggle a bit.
putting it,
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting conversation with council tomorrow night.
mhm.
Because again, just like we say, art is very subjective. Yeah, we'll think different things, but so we'll hopefully give a little bit of a kickstart to your group. But I would expect the next meeting, if this board meets, they'll be reviewing
I
what
think
council came out with.
And yep, and looking at that and kind of how that feels, and then potentially even spending, like I said, time on a broader work plan and getting your ideas. I mean, that's another thing. It's like, okay, here's what they maybe prioritize, and we're gonna kick off 1 or 2 of these things. And what else do you guys? What else do you see? We can always you can always throw it at the wall, right? I think you can always make the list, throw it at the wall and see
Mhm.
what happens with it. And it might not be the version that you thought, but it might be better, So I think that's a fair next step for this group.
And you work like with the Ford Family Foundation and other foundations where basically they're, like at Gates, for example, they have a welcome to Gates, there, and that was funded from my understanding through the Ford Family Foundation, but there was a lot of committee work involved in all that.
And we do that I do that with other projects that I work on, like the Civic Leadership Academy. I work on grants. I've worked with the Ford Family Foundation. I've worked with the Capital Foundation out of Salem. So yes, if we have something that we're like, okay, we really want to do this and we have X amount of dollars, but it's going to cost this much, where can we look? And that would be somewhere that I can look and look at writing grants for. So that possibility is definitely there.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna have to be there for art, right? I think it's, cities mostly do streets, water, sewer. That's their backbone.
Which we appreciate. Yes.
Yeah, right. It's good the toilets flush. It's awesome. No one ever complains that, when they're flushing. But then these are the sweet things on top, right? And so we have to find a way to blend those in with other budget pieces.
Yeah, because this will tie into our budget meetings that'll start in May for the new fiscal year. So getting feedback, input here, what we can prioritize, what we hope we can do, will feed into that next budget cycle as well. But like Carrie said, that 175,000 originally was dedicated to one project, which was that roundabout art. And we've lifted that, which is nice. It's kind of opening that boundary for you guys to set, as long as it's within our district here. But that doesn't mean there can't be additional funds or other funds that come from different areas of the budget that's not limited to just downtown core. So that's going to be another option too when we do the budget.
Any other questions, you guys, on?
You know, I was just sorry, this is
Okay, no.
completely off topic, but the soccer team on Friday was just gonna meet at Village Green and have pizza. Do I have to like sign up?
On there?
Sorry, that, my head, so it's gonna be like 50 people.
No, just go, have fun. I don't think anything's going
Have your permit, Christine.
I know, I was thinking about that, sorry.
Group, it's fine.
Completely off topic. That just popped in my head.
You can ask those kind of questions as well.
Maybe I should ask. Okay.
You can always ask those.
Okay, we can just go. Okay.
So our next meeting is, oh, Monica, can you throw a date at me? I can pull up my calendar as fast as I can. September 22nd at 3 o'clock here. And we'll have some more information on kind of what the council is thinking after tomorrow night. Feel free to tune in, come and be at the meeting. It'll be the 5:30 workshop. I've got one scholarship thing that we're working on first, and then it'll be conversation about this group of projects. So
I wasn't here.
Andrew Loomis. So he is, I do have not met Andrew, but I think he's newer to town. He had some experience with the Beaverton Art Counselor Commission, I believe. I thought he was going to be here. He said he had said he would be, so something met.
Thanks for texting me. Thanks.
Any other questions? I'm going to adjourn our meeting at 4:09 PM.
Stephanie, and what's your name again?
Esther.